Ellis Cinema back, another dish. How we doing out there? Good, great, and wonderful. So, we have done a lot over the course of the last couple months, have we not? And guess what? It doesn't look like it's slowing down anytime soon for your boy. I think I got 42 that I'm obligated to do. That doesn't even count the ones that I just want to do. So we'll get there. We'll get there on my own time. So let's keep it moving. As you see on your screen, your dial, however you are choosing to join me today, I appreciate you, choosing to join us today because I got a little treat for you today. As you see, the Collingswood Story. So what is the Collingswood Story? When Rebecca went away to college, her boyfriend John thought video chatting would help them stay in touch. However, idle curiosity leads to a dark secret when Rebecca and John video chat with Vera Madeline, an online psychic who initiates a deadly reign of terror over their lives. The Collingswood Story is an innovative and acclaimed micro-budget, and if you guys don't know what a micro-budget is, about $350. It's the first found footage to be viewed through webcams, which help pave the way for future hits such as Host, Paranormal Activity, and Unfriended. Its macabre tale of murder, ritual, and mystery is told through an immersive interface where each character uses a cam for their own voyeuristic purposes to communicate, to investigate, or even to victimize, but ultimately becoming witness to a shocking and disturbing finish. The Collingswood Story stars Stephanie Dees, Johnny Burton, Diane, Behrens, hopefully I got that right, Grant Edmonds, and Glenn Hoeffner. Music by John DeBoard. Produced, edited, written, and directed by, hold on a fucking second, I'll get there. So, I hate doing this show. I hate it. Can't stand it. Unless I can search and find somebody that I find interesting to talk to about their particular piece. And, I think I hit the gold mine on this one because I reached out to one person, one for one, out of the park with this one. So I decided to bring him on the show. Producer, editor, writer, director Mike Costanza, joining the Ellis Cinema podcast for the first time. Mike, it has been a long time coming, sir.
Jeez, wow. Thanks, Sean. Great build up there. Really appreciate being here.
Me too, man. And this is no bullshit, Mike. I wouldn't have you on the show if I didn't think that this film was worth talking about.
Honored. Thank you.
Yeah, as we were talking before the show even rolled, I'm juggling. I'm juggling. We got a lot of stuff going on, but I've been waiting to sit down and do this. It's been a couple months since we've been talking about trying to get this together, right?
Yeah. It's taken so long.
Oh no, it's not you. In fact, you're a busy man too. You just premiered this in San Francisco, right?
Yeah, it was just at the film festival there, the Unnamed Footage Festival at the Balboa Theater in San Francisco, and it was just a lot of fun. Watching the film with an audience is a complete different experience. So that was just hella fun. Had a lot of good times there.
That's awesome. In fact, in a lot of ways, I was glad that we could kind of wait because I wanted to hear about your experience. And I would assume, because the movie wasn't shot in San Francisco.
No, it wasn't.
So you don't have any hometown crowd coming to see your piece. And obviously you said it was fun to see it with the crowd, but I got to think that if they are respecting, where we came from, the past, because this film, I think, is ahead of its time. I really do. And, once people sit down and see it, they'll understand what I'm talking about. But how did that experience go?
Really well. You never know how an audience is going to react to something. And certainly, I made this 20 years ago. But you can almost look at it in terms of the technology as being like a time capsule, almost like a period piece in terms of the technology. Horror will always remain the same, but when you introduce technology, the audience, there was a Q&A afterwards, and the audience had a lot of great questions, and it was a really good feedback. So it was overall just a really great experience.
So just before we kind of got into the film and how it came to be, I always like to get to know my guests a little bit more, and Just out of curiosity, I always ask my guests this, but where did this, because I think you would agree, when you get into film, it becomes an obsession. Like, that's all there. Like,
oh my gosh, completely.
You just dive in, and then before you know it, you've wasted 20 years of your life, and you don't know what the hell's going on anymore. But but one of those things, like for you, I mean, I can think back to mine, and I can remember the specific moment. But for you, what was that moment that you were like, you know what? I think I want to fucking make films for a living, because I listen to your commentary and we share a lot of similarities in terms of kind of how we decided to get in. Well, you, not me. I haven't made shit. You've made something. But where was the start of this?
Of Collingswood, or just
your passion of film in general?
Just from a love of cinema, a love of going to the movies, and just early on, like as a kid, you try to, like, how was this made? How was it cut together? The editing was always so, like, how the hell do they, piece it together? So I think, like, from an early age, that kind of got me really interested in filmmaking. And then, of course, cinematography also, the whole visual aspect of it also, and filling a frame with action or whatever concept you're bringing to life. Did I just hit that?
No, you're good. You're good.
Did I hit the mic? Did it just?
Oh, you're all good. I can hear you loud and clear.
Right on.
So I mean, I guess for me, it was Jaws. Like, Jaws was the film that
of course
I ended up watching over and over again, and I went, you know
Definitely.
what? This would just be so much fun to do for a living. just to be on set and have everything fail around you and somehow making gold out of nothing.
Absolutely.
So you go to the theater, you get this passion. Now, years and years later, how does the inspiration for the Collingswood Story, and it's actually a two-parter, so the inspiration for the Collingswoods, well, let's just start with that. Where did the inspiration for the Collingswood Story come?
A few things. First and foremost, the Blair Witch Project. I was very, without any blood or gore, what the filmmakers accomplished, I thought was amazing. So I remain a huge fan to this day. And I also like that the filmmakers were just like, we're just going to pick up a camera and make a film. So I was like, let me do that. So right around that time was when webcams came out. So I got a webcam and I was kind of just shooting just little, like home videos with it. And then the idea of incorporating it into a feature-length film, which had not been done at that point. Video chatting was still very much in its infancy. And on top of that, my mother had sent me from Maine. She found this creepy Halloween shaker. So I was like, holy shit. It was like everything at once. So I wanted to put all that kind of together into a film, and then started writing Collingswood Story.
Well, and to boot, you brought in some actual lore about Collingswood, did you not?
Yes. Yeah. When I was back east in the Collingswood Library, there is a book called Collingswood Story. And there was a house on Lee's Lane where these were murders and arson took place. So I loosely based it on the whole myth. I loosely based it on what happened there in the mid 1800s.
If we could, like, is there any details of some of that lore that you may be able to give? Like, where, for example?
In Collingswood, actually on Lee's Lane.
Oh, really? Really?
In the book, there's only a page dedicated to that. I was hoping that there would be more, but they only had one page dedicated, because I was like, I wanted to know more about it. I was like, but there's only one page dedicated to it. So,
I mean, I think that's who we are as filmmakers. Once we have that jumping off point, we don't need too much more. And when I was listening to the bonus features, like I said, like there was some things that we definitely share similarities, and definitely the object. I have definitely written a film just about solely an object, or got the inspiration of a film just solely on an object, or even a painting. I've also written a script just based on something that I saw in a painting, and when you read the script and you look at the painting, you're like, how in the fuck did you get here? Like, you know, and I think
it's something you saw in the painting, or, you know, that sparked and that's where, you know, ideas and creativity comes from. You know, we don't really know sometimes what's really going to inspire us, but when it does, it's like, you just got to roll with it. For sure. Trust your instincts and just roll with it.
So, you know, I mentioned that you had shot this for about $350, and what were some of the some of the things? I mean, because like we're talking, initially I thought just the makeup of what we were seeing probably is what costs the most, but I don't know. That's why I brought you on to tell me. Okay.
Post production, was because back then you couldn't really do everything on your laptop, or you could, but there was no, you know, it just would take forever because the hard drives just could not handle that much. So I had to, like, you know, rent Avid Bays. And that was, you know, that adds up.
I remember those days. Remember those days.
Yes. Right?
I am older than I look. Trust me. I remember those days quite well. Well,
did you do video edit post-production too? Did you do some post-production?
So how I got into everything was editing. I would say that, I mean, Jaws was the film that made me seriously consider you know, like, I wonder if you could do, as lucrative as it is, I wonder if you could do this. But then I went to a little Christian liberal arts university. Listen, my dad taught there, so I got in for free. That's not, there is no God. But no, I'm just, but what I will say is, I remember sitting in my broadcasting class, and we had to do, I don't know, some commercial or some short or whatever, and I ended up being in the editing suite for 72 hours, didn't leave, like, I think I was just Oreos and water for 3 straight days, and I walked out of there, and obviously dragging ass, but that, I knew right then that, like, this is, if you could do that, and it's just, 3 days felt like 3 hours, then this is something that you need to pursue, because then it's not a job at that point. So that was the jumping off point for me. You know, all those hours waiting for rendering. And now, I'm sure you're similar to me. Now you just look back and you think, oh my gosh, if you guys don't even understand, if we had the shit back then that you do now, it'd have been
exactly. I don't know, especially with like TikTok and everything and Instagram. As much I loved Instagram, I hate Instagram now. But if that existed back then, it's like I'd totally be like, yeah.
You know, I'm with you. Social media is the bane of my existence. In fact, I tell my chick all the time that if it wasn't for this stupid fucking show, well, it's not a stupid show, I got you on it, but if it wasn't for this show, I would not have any social media. It doesn't, like, and for me, it's not even, it's not a grumpy old man thing. It's I have other shit that I'd rather be doing. Like, so
exactly, yeah.
You know, and when it comes to the tick,
have time for it.
yeah. Well, and not only that, like, I think, and maybe this is where the grandpa comes in, but I can only handle so many emotions throughout a day. I'm more of a long form media guy. You know, I can't. Yes. I don't think that our brains were meant to, you know, scroll after headline after headline. You're happy, you're sad, you're angry, you're this, and it's only been 10 minutes. Like, I don't think that we were meant to, maybe down the line, but as of right now, well, at least for me, I can't do it. So
not a good concept for now for humans to live by that.
So let's talk a little bit about the cast, which there is this chemistry that exists on screen that I find fascinating, because if memory serves, none of these people were in the same room at once for like 90% of the time. Is that correct?
That is correct. I held auditions, and I want to say I read at least five girls for Rebecca, And as soon as Stephanie walked in and just started doing a line from the script, I was like, that's her, that's Rebecca. So same with all the other characters. Just had auditions, and there was just something in their performance. Diane Behrens, who played Vera Madeline, she's done a lot of film and a lot of TV, and she's right now in a soap opera.
Yeah. I was going to say she's still doing
working.
TV.
Yeah. So, it's so important with, I just knew that with a micro budget film, I already had so much stuff against me. It's like, you're shooting this on like no budget, no names. You're going to have to find a really good cast. And I did. Stephanie Dees, I thought, was amazing. And actually, she was in Halloween 4. She made an appearance in Halloween 4, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So, she was one of the, wasn't she one of the friends, or maybe even she was a part of like the bullies, maybe?
She was part of the bullies. She's dressed up as a penguin, so she chases the character around. She's like, yeah, your uncle's a boogeyman.
Before I forget, I did want to, thing number one, you better not be putting any seance on me right now, or any, like, I swear to God, if we hang up and all of a sudden weird shit starts happening, I know where I'm coming to
find you.
Don't look behind you. Yeah. I'm coming to find you. That was, honestly, I'm going to tell you right now, that's why I rescheduled, because I didn't know if this was some sort of ploy to, now all of a sudden now I'm in a cult.
Shit. Oh, God, now he knows.
Yeah. And so but I made sure that I phoned the authorities in advance, and I was just like, look, if anything happens in about 45 minutes, you haven't heard from me. I wasn't lying. I'm not a crazy person. Like that, he did some shit. But that was just here nor there. Another thing that for me on the sometimes I don't give a shit about my audience. I just want to talk to my guest, and I wanted to tell you, I knew that this movie was going to hit different for me for two reasons. One of my biggest breakups that I had was with a Rebecca, and obviously you have Rebecca and John kind of going through this thing. So as soon as I hear that Rebecca left to school, because the same for me, she went to get her PhD, and I was kind of just like, all right, that was thing number one. But the wilder part for me was she left Bedford. I graduated from Bedford High School, which I just...
Well, that's pretty intense.
Yeah, so I'm sitting there going, this is...
Wait a minute, is this about me?
Yeah, I was like, I really felt like, especially around that time, when this was released, I was John. Like when we're and that goes even to the backwards hat. To the backwards hat, I was John. So this movie was going to hit different for me I just knew it was. So what I wanted to ask you, and if you're like, hey man, nope, it's still raw for me, I don't want to talk about it. Was this something pulled from your own personal life, or was it just like, no, I wanted to get this Halloween shaker and this lore in one script, and I'll build it around a couple kind of falling apart?
Well, I think all of my past experiences somehow, creep in, whether it's subconscious or unconscious, whatever. But I think I had to get her I had to get her to Collingswood. So the whole point was to have her come from another state to get, away. So it ended up being Bedford. So, but strange coincidence.
Yeah, just like this is messed up. From I guarantee, like, my audience is never going to hear from me again. There's too much deep dark shit going on right now. Bedford, Rebecca, the seance. Well, and you know what? In a lot of ways, that would be a blessing for me, because I tell you what, between Cauldron, between Arrow Video, they're overloading me right now. Speaking of which, with Cauldron, Cauldron, I think, is doing these releases that wouldn't necessarily you've even heard of if it weren't for kind of the fine-tooth comb digging of Cauldron. So how did that relationship or partnership come about?
They have a really great library. Just out of the blue, Jesse and Brian from Cauldron Films emailed me about Collingswood, and I haven't thought of Collingswood in years, and they just jump started this whole resurgence in the film again. So very grateful to them for that. They were just like, "Hey man, this film deserves a Blu-ray release. Just own the rights to it." I'm like, "Yes." So just went back and redigitized all of the original footage and did some color correction in DaVinci Resolve. Again, shit I didn't have the first time around. So they made this, really great Blu-ray. And
they use all your original source tapes from this, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
I got to think, even
all the high 8 tapes, there's these little...
Yeah.
Some of them had creases on it. I was like, oh, shit. But in Adobe Premiere and then Photoshop and DaVinci, you can get rid of the creases. So I did a lot of restoration work on it also.
So I guess, again, just a question for me. What was the, time involved for something like that, for restoring something from a high 8 like that?
It definitely ended up being a longer process, but it was during lockdown. So it was good, but I'm like, oh, I can do this in a month, and it just ended up taking 3 months. So it was a lot of work, but me, I was just like, oh, I can get it done in a month, but no, I'm not retransferring all that footage. So, but they were really patient. They were great. They weren't like, fuck you, you're taking too long, goodbye.
So one thing that, as we're kind of trending towards the end here, one thing I wanted to talk about and maybe, kind of push you towards, but I don't know if you would be interested, but I think there's too many avenues for you to be able to do this. I'm watching a couple of the featurettes, and it sounds like the cast is interested in giving this another go with a, maybe a little bit heavier budget with what we have now at our disposal, and I was just curious what your thoughts on that would be.
It's one of the things that I'm writing right now. I'm doing some other, like a TV pilot and a feature, but also through the years too, I would start a Collingswood, revisit, and just reading back on some of it, I was like, wow, this is cool. So that's all finally coming together. So hopefully in the fall or something.
Well, one thing I did want to say, because I'm not a big sequel guy, unless it's Aliens or Terminator 2. We kind of the Raid 2. It sometimes doesn't come off, but I go back and forth, Mike, because I am a huge fan of less is more. I think what did I tell one guy the other day? I don't need to have everything in your face. Let's create terror and horror and uncomfortability with an atmosphere, with an environment. And, the one that I used the other day was the Changeling, just where it hinges on almost nothing, but just because of how the story's told, you're automatically uncomfortable, And
Yes.
I think one of my favorite aspects of this film, I'm glad you said it, because I didn't even think about it. It does play like a period piece. It really does, the early stages of the video chat, and I think that there's something just with that alone that is uncomfortable, And I don't.
It is, and it's harder to do. It's easy to just show, not that I'm against blood and gore and stuff. It's easy to show that and get a reaction. What's difficult is to work with actors and just build atmosphere just based on just their acting with nothing else. So I'm kind of old school that way, where you mentioned, Sean, less is more. That's totally in Collingswood. That's less is more. Unfriended, all the a lot of other films, they're studio budget films. They have I don't want to say a shitload of money, but compared to Collingswood or the Blair Witch Project, that's a shitload of money to work with.
Yeah,
So
I don't know that I mean, those are some good examples that they had listed on the back here. The one that I guess for me and it's so funny because I haven't even sat down and watched it because, life happens. But wasn't there one called Searching with Jonathan Cho?
yes, searching.
And that is kind of what this reminded me of. And I felt like after I saw this, I was like, well, because I think Searching's more rooted in reality, and I'm a big horror nut, so give me the supernatural, the whatever all day, and I was thinking, well, if I've seen something like this, I don't need to see the other one. But let's kind of back up with the less is more. There's a couple things I wanted to tell you before you got out of here, because as the editor, it was probably my favorite aspect of the film, which was the editing. I think that you set the tone so well in the beginning with just those flashing of images, and I'm not going to ruin too much for the folks at home, but I'll just say that from the jump, you had me. And then after that, we almost have what we're doing, what you and I are doing right now. You have in the back of your head some of these images that you saw, the sound design that you chose to go with, the score, and I'm going, I can sit and watch these people talk because I know that there's something around the corner, something wicked this way comes, and that's a testament to all of you, because you're wearing a lot of hats in this film, and I will say this: at one point, I expected you to come out. Did I miss a cameo at any point where you dressed up somewhere in that attic or something? Did I miss that?
No, that would have been fun. But actually, on TikTok, I posted because I did that clapperboard and I couldn't believe I found that. So I posted that, so you should check it out on the Collingswood Story TikTok.
I will never do TikTok.
I think it's the only thing of me that exists on that set.
I will never do TikTok, but for you, Mike, I will most assuredly check it out. I just, for whatever reason, I tell people all the time, I don't do Snapchat or TikTok, and I don't do button-up shirts, and obviously one of those is a lie. So I might as well just do the TikTok. So, Mike, this has been exactly what I thought it was. I mean, I knew after I had reached out and I kind of got, you can sense the vibe of people right out the jump. And my whole thing is, okay, this happened 20 years ago. I'm a piece of shit fan, Mike. I'm one of these people, if you hit 50 home runs in a year and now you're 41 and you're struggling, I still want those 50 home runs, but I admit it, so I think it makes it okay. So I want more Mike Costanza work. Like something like this to exist at the time that it did, I can only assume that you've gotten better. You've polished, and I mean, to get a feature film made, let's be honest, it's not easy. I don't have to tell you that. So it's just making a film is a series of miracles after miracles, and that starts from even getting the cameras to do the shoot. And I know that filmmakers typically get better over time, and after the credits rolled on this one, I just was like, I want more Mike vision. I want more Mike stories, and I didn't want to tell you that through the email or anything else because face to face is better. I'm old school.
Thank you, Sean. I really appreciate hearing that. That's
but yeah,
and I've been inspired by this to really do more narrative work because that's what I started off with, and then I branched out and I did some sports content also, and also some VR 3D work as well. But at this stage right now, I just miss narrative. So it's the perfect time for me to focus on those projects now. And I mean, like someone like you, Sean, just talent, just inspired by the film and liking it. That's just awesome. It's always good to hear. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I mean, and I would, to kind of close it off, I'll say what I said at the beginning. I'm not kidding when I tell you that if I don't want to be here, I will not. If I don't want to talk to someone about their work, I won't. I pass on interviews all the time. I was like, no, I saw that one. I can't fake it that well. But with you, like I said, we've been counting down for 2 months now. I'm so happy that you were able to come on. Well, actually, in this particular case, that I was able to actually step up and come on, because it's been a rough go for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah,
but,
no. Thanks for having me, Sean.
Absolutely, Mike. You're welcome on the show anytime. Please let me know if there's anything that you just, hey, man, let's get on. Let's just bullshit. Let's just bullshit for a half hour.
Definitely, I would love to come back.
You got it, man. You got it, man. Thank you so much for coming on, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, man.
All right, we're going to get Mike out of here. I just wanted to let you know the Collingswood Story is available right now through Cauldron Films. And some of the bonus features that you can see on this, we have multiple featurettes. We have a Q&A with Stephanie Dees and also Johnny Burton and Grant Edmonds, I believe, which was really fucking fun. The Johnny and Grant was really fun, and the Stephanie Dees plays more like a typical featurette. But then you also have what I found. I like commentaries where we actually talk about the how. And the why, not necessarily what. Sometimes you listen to these commentaries and it is, well, on this day she had a cold, and then we had to get her coffee and Kleenexes, and then and I just can't do it, and Mike was as advertised. I typically only pick guests that I know that are going to be good, but Mike was as advertised, and I can tell you on that commentary, I not only was I entertained, but I like to learn. Well, I just like to learn in general. Give me all the knowledge. I'm a knowledge whore. So check out a revolutionary experience in the supernatural in the Collingswood Story, and I can tell you, the fact that it's rooted in truth, rooted in some form of fact. All right. Mike Costanza, The Collingswood Story, Ellis Cinema, available now. You have no excuse. No excuse, gang. All right, Ellis Cinema, Mike Costanza. We're out of here.